You know this story. You've known it all your life. But sometimes the old stories are the ones worth hearing again. There was once a tortoise, slow and steady, who decided to race a hare. Now the hare was fast. Everyone knew that. He could dart across fields while the tortoise had barely taken 3 steps. The other animals laughed. A race? Between you two? The hare will win before you've even started. But the tortoise just smiled. He'd learned something in his long, slow life. Something the hare, with all his speed, hadn't discovered yet. They lined up at the starting line. The whole forest gathered to watch. Birds perched in the trees. Rabbits peeked from their burrows. Even the wise old owl came down from his oak to see what would happen. The race began, and the hare, well, he did exactly what you'd expect. He shot forward like an arrow, leaving the tortoise far, far behind. The hare ran so fast his feet barely touched the ground. He leaped over logs. He bounded through meadows. He was magnificent, and in minutes he'd covered half the distance to the finish line. He looked back. The tortoise was still near the starting line, taking one slow step after another. The hare laughed. "This is too easy. I have so much time. I could take a nap and still win." And that's exactly what he decided to do. He found a nice spot under a shady tree. The grass was soft. The breeze was gentle. Just a quick rest, he thought. I'll wake up and still win easily. And he closed his eyes. Meanwhile, the tortoise kept walking. 1 foot, then another, then another. He didn't rush. He didn't worry. He just kept going, step, step, step. The sun moved across the sky. The tortoise kept walking, past the tall grass where the hare had bounded, past the log the hare had leaped over, step by step by step. Other animals watched him pass. Some felt sorry for him. Some admired him. But the tortoise didn't pay attention to any of them. He just kept his eyes on the path ahead. 1 step, then another. The hare, meanwhile, was sleeping soundly. He dreamed of winning. He dreamed of everyone cheering. He was so sure of his victory he didn't even stir. The tortoise walked on. His legs were tired. His shell felt heavy, but he didn't stop. He'd started this race, and he would finish it. That's just who he was. Hours passed. The afternoon sun began to sink lower in the sky, and the tortoise, the steady, patient tortoise, walked on. He passed the halfway point, then 3/4. The finish line was in sight now. That's when a little bird landed on a branch near the sleeping hare. "Wake up," the bird chirped. "The race, the tortoise." The hare's eyes flew open. He jumped to his feet and looked around. Where was the tortoise? Still far behind, surely. But then he looked toward the finish line, and his heart sank. There, just a few yards from the end, was the tortoise. Still moving steadily, almost there, the hare ran. Oh, how he ran, faster than he'd ever run before. His legs were a blur. His ears streamed behind him. He had to win. He had to, but it was too late. Just as the hare came racing up, the tortoise crossed the finish line. The forest erupted in cheers. The tortoise had won. The slow, steady tortoise had actually won. The hare stood there, panting, stunned. He couldn't believe it. He was faster. Everyone knew he was faster. How could this have happened? The tortoise turned around slowly. He looked at the hare with kind eyes. "You were faster," he said gently, "but I kept going." And that was the whole story right there. Not in 3 words, not in one lesson, but in something deeper. You see, the tortoise understood something that takes a lifetime to learn. Being fast doesn't matter if you don't finish. Being talented doesn't matter if you give up halfway. And sometimes the quiet, steady effort wins over the loud, flashy show. The tortoise never worried about how far ahead the hare was. He never stopped to think about whether he could win. He just put one foot in front of the other, again and again, hour after hour. That's all it took. Just keeping going. Think about all the times in your own life when you were the tortoise, when you didn't have the most talent, when you weren't the fastest or the smartest or the strongest, but you kept going anyway. Maybe it was raising your children. Nobody told you how hard some days would be. But you got up every morning and did it anyway, one day at a time, one problem at a time, and you made it through. Maybe it was a job that seemed too difficult. Maybe it was learning something new when you weren't young anymore. Maybe it was just getting through a hard year, one day at a time. You were the tortoise, slow and steady, never stopping. And you know what? You made it. You're still here, still going. That counts for something. That counts for a lot. The hare learned something that day too. He learned that talent isn't enough, that gifts need patience, that being fast is wonderful, but finishing is what matters. Some say he never napped during a race again. Some say he and the tortoise became friends, and the hare learned to slow down and enjoy the journey sometimes. That's the thing about old stories. They don't just teach one lesson. They grow with you. When you heard this story as a child, maybe you thought it was about not being lazy or about trying your best. But now, after all these years, maybe you hear something different. Maybe you hear that it's okay to be slow, that steady is good, that the race isn't always to the swift. Maybe you hear that all these times you felt like you were falling behind, like everyone else was racing ahead while you just kept putting one foot in front of the other. Maybe those were your winning moments too. The tortoise didn't win by becoming faster. He won by being exactly who he was, slow, steady, persistent. And maybe that's something worth remembering today, that you don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the best. You just have to keep going. One step at a time, one day at a time, just like you always have.